All right, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and as part of the Rankin Technical College AWD 1000 Web Development Technologies course, I've been going through a series or creating a series of video presentations based off of the Mozilla Developer Network Learn Web Development series. I'm in the JavaScript portion, and we're in First Steps. So far, we went through the overview. What is JavaScript? We look at a first splash into JavaScript where we had two versions of a guessing game. The first one was the one created here, and it was a much better one from the people in Mozilla. And then I went and redid mine to try to make it a little easier for you to understand. Well, let's talk about this. All right, let's talk about what went wrong, troubleshooting. Well, it says, when you built the Guess the Number game, you may have found it didn't work. Never fear, this article aims to save you from tearing your hair out. All right. So generally speaking, there's really three types of errors. Only two are mentioned here, but I'll mention all three. The first type of error is a syntax error. All right. Syntax errors are you have violated the rules of the language. You spelled something incorrectly, typically, and that's what it is in here. All right, instead of alert, I wrote alert, let's say, or something like that. There's logic errors. And that's when you mean to do one thing, but you do another. For instance, maybe before in my program, when we did the plus on the number of guesses, I said minus. So it was showing me a negative number of guesses instead of a positive number of guesses. I wouldn't do that, but you get the idea. There's also runtime errors, which are not mentioned on here, but they're another type of error. And that means the program is running, but either you've inputted something that's caused the program to break, or something in your processing is incorrect that's caused the program to break. But it's called a runtime error because it's breaking while the program is actually running. All right. So it says, let's return to our number guessing game, except this time we'll explore a version that has errors deliberately introduced into it. So let's look at what they have here. All right, so this is their program. Again, this was mine. Notice JPS version. So let's bring that up. And we'll save this as guessing game bad.html. All right. And let's see if we can just peruse our way through it and see if we can find any of these errors. Random number math.random. Okay, the guesses, etc. Guess count. All right, they've got basically the same program in here. I'm just looking at it to see exactly what they've done. So, all right. It says you might have noticed that the game example doesn't work, which is why you'd want to fix it. Well, let's look at their example. Let's just do one thing to it. This is guessing game bad. All right, and I'm going to put in here a number and click submit guess, and nothing happens. Well, one of the first things to do then is to right mouse click, go to inspect, and take a look here. All right, and it's telling me that I've got an error in line 85. So start working our way through this. So we go to line 85, and it is in the add event listener. Well, that E in event listener, I believe, should be capitalized. So that was a syntax error. So let's go back and try to run it again. All right, and it says wrong. Okay. Well, what's it not doing? It's not keeping track of the number of guesses. Plus, it's not telling us if the guess was too high or too low, so we don't really know. So again, this could be written a lot better than it has been written. There we go. All right. So early on in the course, we got you to type some simple commands using the console. Well, I didn't do it that way, but that's fine. It says go to the tab where you've got number game errors. I just called it guessing game bad. And it says, again, you saw this, add event listener is not a function. This is a pretty easy error to track down, and the browser gives you useful bits of information. All right. So it says if we go to that line, you saw what the problem was. It said add event listener is not a function, which means that this does not exist. Well, it says here's a shortcut to save you time. It should have been add event listener with a capital E. All right. So looking at the page, the error appears to be that we spelled the function name wrong. Remember, JavaScript is case sensitive, and that's why. Okay, great. So syntax errors round 2. Save your page and refresh, and you should see the error is gone. Now, if you try to enter a guess and you press submit, you'll see it says here another error. And it says low or high is null. I didn't notice that error, but let's see if we get it. All right, so we're going to come in here. We're going to leave this up. Oops, not there. I'm sorry. We're going to go into the inspector and leave that up. All right, and let's put in a number and click Submit Guess. And it says, cannot set text property, text content of null in line 77. Well, is that the error that they had here? Well, there's a 78, probably is. Null, again, is a special value that means nothing. For some reason, null has a tendency to trip people up. They get to where they don't really understand what null is. And this is the way that I put it. So imagine that you're a first semester student at Rankin Technical College. You walk into class the first day. And I say, okay, I'd like to know, I would never do this, but just so you can get the idea. I'd like to know what everybody's grade point average is. And I go to the first person, and they've taken a couple classes, they've gotten A's and everything, and they say 4.0. I go to the next person, and they have taken one class, and they got a B, and they say 3.0. I go to the next person, and they haven't taken any classes yet, so they go 0. And I said, you failed something? And they go, no, I haven't taken anything yet. Well, that means their grade point average is null. It's unknown. They don't have one yet. All right. So it says here, if we look on line 78, we're going to see this. So let's look if that low.high.text content. All right. And it says the earliest instance of this we'll find is right here. And they want you to actually check to see whether or not it is null. All right. And if you do, that's what you're going to find. So it says, what's the problem? It says, let's think about what could be the problem. All right. And the problem is we need a class selector there, right? So it says the selector being passed is query selector. It's not class selector. All right. So it says that could be the problem. It says try changing lower high to dot lower high in line 48. Well, let's look at that. There's no dot there. Notice there's a dot here and here and here and here. There it's been left off. So dot. Let's save it. Let's go back and at least attempt to run it again. So we'll refresh. I'll come in here. 33. Submit guess. All right, last guess was too high. That looks good. How about 22? Still was too high. 11. Too high. 2. Too high. 1. You got it. But it's still saying right here that add event listener is not a correct function, and it's telling me that it's got a problem here on lines 93 and 67. So let's look at both of those. 93, well, same problem we had before. All right, and 67. We're calling set game over. Well, let's see if that fixed it. Sometimes fixing one error will fix other errors. So 50, too high. 33, too high. 22, too high. 11, too high. 1. Congratulations, you got it right. And it's not showing any errors in here. That's a good sign. It says now, if you try playing the game again, you should get more success. All right, until you get to the end of the game, either by guessing the right number or by running out of guesses. And then you already saw this. We got that same error that we had before. All right, so we have hit on syntax errors. So it says let's put in a logic error. All right, it says the random number is always 1. I didn't notice that, but the last 2 games it has been 1. So let's come back in here. Let's refresh. And let's put in 1 again. And it's correct. Let's refresh again. And let's put in 1 again. And it's correct. Well, it's not going to keep doing 1, so there is an error in there. And the error is in where we are setting the math.random. Probably in here, or else in here, or in both. All right, both places. So it says search for the random number variable, and we find it right here. If we console.log it, it's going to be equal to 1 every time through there. Well, I've already mentioned to you that math.random gives you a random number between that's greater than or equal to 0 and less than 1. All right. Well, what did we do here? We just said math.random. So it's going to give us a number that's 0 point something. All right. And once we do the floor, it's going to remove the point something. It's always going to be 0. We didn't say times 100. So if we change that line to this line, again, this was wrong. It should have looked like that. We didn't do the times 100. And actually, we can space it out a little. So times 100. That's what it should have looked like. Both there and down here. Now if we save, go back and run it again, and we put in 1, all right, too low. Okay, so I believe we've now cleaned out all the errors that were in there. So couple of examples. They put the triple equals in there, which doesn't make sense. That's only used in an if or a while or some kind of thing when you're checking something. So that should be a single equals. The program always says you won regardless. All right. If you change this to this, it's going to be our incorrect check, because all that says is, can you take random number and assign it to user guess? Yes, it's true, you can do that, so it'll always say you won. If you miss a paren, all right, you'll have a missing after property ID. Same kind of thing if you're missing a curly brace. unterminated string literal. So you put in something in double quotes, but you didn't end it. Now, there are many other types of errors, and you can go into the JavaScript error reference to find more. One of the best things that you can do is to write a program and have errors in it, because it helps your debugging skills and it helps you understand what's going on. So we've done the what is JavaScript, a first splash into JavaScript, and what can go wrong. Now let's go back and let's find out a little bit more about variables in the next lesson.